What's going on, all you constant listeners out there in the multiverse? You're listening to the Vert 16 Comics Wire podcast. I am your host, Brian at Vert 16. And my guest today is he's a regular. I've had him before. This is the third time I've had him on. It's Pat Murphy, the writer for Echoes of the Triumphant, or the creator, I should say, also of Echoes of the Triumphant. How's it going, Pat?
It's going pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. Sorry for the botched introduction. I had to get my microphone. Knew I was missing something.
Oh yeah, no worries. My microphone's just pretty basic. I know.
All right. So how's everything going?
Yeah, everything's going well. So it's a pretty crazy time in Ottawa right now because there's a whole trucker protest. But aside from that, everything's pretty going all right. Like the Kickstarter's up and running. Currently at 85%. So yeah, everything's pretty solid.
Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, speaking of the Kickstarter, I've been looking at it. It looks like you're once again toward your goal with 30 days to go too. I mean, you're like, it looks like you're less than $100, about less than 100 away. And it's already within the month, so it's really taking off.
Yeah, no, that's pretty ideal. I'm really grateful for everybody's support.
Yeah, and for those of the listeners who are new to the podcast, tell us more about Echoes of the Triumphant.
Sure. I think the best way to describe Echoes of the Triumphant is that it's like a worst case scenario world if superhumans exist. So it's not like the sense that narcissistic superheroes. It's the sense that like the governments and all these corrupt like business people like superhumans for like cheap labor, and so there's just like a lot of rivalry. There's really like these tweaks, these superhumans as we call them in the story. They're like treated as like second class citizens. So, there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of like inequality in Echo City, and yeah, basically it's up to our character Adrian Avery to just keep the peace in the city.
Okay, yeah. So that's pretty much, it's a story about like, yeah, so it's pretty much the story because like there's we have a little bit of a spy connection. I don't know if I was able to hear you, but basically from what you're saying, so it's like a story about like how due to a freak accident,
Oh, okay.
these people gain like these powers and all that, and then like with their abilities, they're used as sort of like second class citizens, are used for manual labor.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I mean, like the idea is that like they'd be forced to do, like mining or construction or just really hard. And there's this like private military contracts in that the government hired just to like keep them from rebelling. So and they're basically forcing them to do their jobs with like certain technologies. So yeah.
Yeah. So that's yeah, it's quite the story. And the main character is name, I think his name is Adrian, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, his name's Adrian Avery, and yeah, he starts out the story with a huge like chip on his shoulder. So pretty much when we start Echoes of the Triumphant, his like career comes to a halt, and we learn that like he had taught, he's working in a job that is not that fulfilling. So when we start off the story, he's definitely a dude who's like um, kind of he kind of he's not feeling that great about himself, and so he sets on this journey to take down this villain Lionheart, just to kind of elevate himself and just make him look and feel better. So yeah.
All right. And all right, so sorry about that. So right now we have the Kickstarter open, and it looks like this is for the third issue of the Echoes of the Triumphant. And can you tell us more about the Kickstarter? And because it looks like you're pretty much almost at your goal right now once more.
Yeah. So we're 85% funded. So yeah, really grateful about that. So I'm really grateful for everybody's support. So yeah, this is the third issue. So we have issue number 0, the prelude, and then we have issue number 1 and issue number 2. So yeah, if you check out our Kickstarter, there's a lot of fantastic rewards I think that people should check out. So there's digital rewards, there's print rewards. You have the option to become listed in our backers credit page. So when the graphic novel is complete, you'll have your name appear on the credits page of the graphic novel. And we have this really cool reward where you get to be featured as a tweak if you back it. So I think in a last reward, if you select it, you'll be featured as a tweak of your choice. You get to be any tweak that you want to be in issue number 4. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And we also have another thing going on right now where if you back the project and you just share the link, you'll be eligible for a free Echoes of the Triumphant poster. So yeah, I'm mumbling right now, but like yeah, there's a lot of cool rewards that everybody should check out.
Amazing. And let's see, it looks like we have a lot of the let's see, stretch goals, custom made Reverb Comics t-shirts, and stretch goal also custom made Reverb Comics caps. So wow, it's really these goals look really awesome. And let's see, we have the digital bundle, the backer credits, print bundle. And can you tell us a little more about the bundles?
Yeah, so pretty much the print and digital bundles, they just include issue number 0, number 1, and number 2. So you can either choose to have that sent to you like via like a PDF form if you back the digital reward, or we can just send it to you by mail, and just you'll have it on your doorstep, and yeah.
It's amazing. And I'm also looking at the page too, and like I've seen some of the concept drawings. Looks kind of like a director's cut almost. Looks really awesome, especially the drawing of Lionheart and our main character. I mean, that suit looks really awesome. It's where'd you come up with the concept for the suit? Was it talked upon between you and the artists?
Yeah, so basically what happened is that in this story, Adrian's just a regular guy, right? So if he gets the idea was like we wanted to take a grounded route with the story. So if he got hit by somebody who's really, really strong, then like a normal person wouldn't be able to survive that, right? So he needs like this suit of armor to just kind of protect himself in case he gets hit by somebody who's just ridiculously powerful. So that's pretty much needed in the story. So I basically sketched out what I wanted, and then Jared Bazina, our artist, just really just really built on that and just made like an awesome design.
It's amazing. So I just posted the link on my Twitter page, my personal Twitter page, Brian Effort 16, to support Reverb Comics. So for those of you who are listening, be sure to click on the page, and it will take you on my tweet, and it'll take you straight to the Kickstarter page, which also has a trailer, which I'm actually planning on posting on my YouTube page a little bit later on, so y'all can see. This is a really cool comic, and when I read it, I was completely, I was like, wow, especially by the fact that, this, I feel that this comic does have a story, and also it just shows like I feel like it's a reflection of our society. I think I mentioned that in a previous episode when I had a Pat on last time. I mentioned how it's sort of a reflection on our society about how we treat people who are different from us, and especially with there was this one part in the comic that I noticed with how they used one tweak in particular to as a sort of as a taxi service, because he's sort of a speedster in a sense. And I thought that was really, I thought that was like, you know, symbolic of how, you know, especially in our society, how we use certain people to do certain forms of labor. And it's just, it's like, wow, you know. And I think it was just a reminder of just how kind of how far people, you know, would go to take advantage of others. I think now that I'm thinking about it, would you say that's the case with with Echoes of the Triumphant, or I mean the society in Echo City?
Yeah, so that's definitely a big factor. There's definitely just a lot of exploitation. There's like a lot of exploitation to the point where like people feel as if they're kind of cheated in a way, and they're not being valued as much as they should be. And another part aspect of Echoes of the Triumphant is that image and pride are very big factors. So I think what makes Adrian like really interesting as a character is that he's very like image obsessed. Like he wants more like a greater social status, and he wants more money, and he wants more attention. And I think that's really reflective of everything that's just going on in the real world right now. Like whenever you go onto social media, you just see like, you know, the shiny exterior of a person's life. You don't see their struggles. You don't see their, you know, their hardships or anything like that. And so Adrian's very much like that. He just wants everybody to see this fantastic image of himself. He's not when we started the story. He's not honest. So yeah, I think if you're somebody who really enjoys American Psycho, I think you'll definitely like Echoes of the Triumphant.
So wow, I didn't know that American Psycho was one of the inspirations behind Echoes of the Triumphant. I never seen the movie myself. I know it did star Christian Bale, the guy who played Batman in the Dark Knight trilogy. And wow, that's really interesting. How did American Psycho become sort of an influence?
Well, so I read American Psycho, I guess in my early 20s, and I just thought like
Oh, it's
that was
based on
like
a book.
yeah, yeah. I thought it was like one of the best books ever, because like the whole story is that it's about it's like a satire on the male ego, right? So um uh this character Patrick Bateman, like he cares so much about his image that he just can't feel anything. Like he doesn't know his own sense of individuality. So um, he just does absolutely horrendous and horrible things just so he can feel something. So like he doesn't even ask himself what he likes, what he enjoys. He's only obsessed with like what other people think of him and what how other people perceive him. So I just think that's a very interesting thing because like uh, I feel as though everybody should sort of watch out for that to a certain extent because um, I guess it's a story about like how there's a cost to like fitting in because
Oh,
yeah, because like
yes.
his like the more he tries to fit in the story, like the more his mental state just deteriorates.
And
And
he loses himself.
yeah, it's I mean it's a pretty like violent and kind of shocking story, but I mean there's something I guess to be learned from that. So that's really something that I wanted to put into Echoes of the Triumphant because I mean I see all these like TikTokers and 17-year-old kids who are trying to like you know build their following, and I'm thinking to myself like nobody in this generation wants to be like a lawyer or a doctor or like a good Samaritan. So I think that's a really relevant thing for our generation.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And how also too is how, yeah, the whole part of losing yourself and like having your own self-image, it kind of reminds me of a comic I've been reading. It's called Nigro. It's by Matt Johnson. I don't know if you read it though, but it's about a black man who can pass for a white man. And what he does is that he's a reporter, and he uses his sort of like his appearance to, and his abilities as a journalist to expose racial injustice. I actually did like a previous commentary on an episode a while, like about not too long ago, and it was really interesting how he used his ability, he used all of that to expose racial injustice, so that way he can report on the lynchings going on in the South. Because back then, I mean, that's one of the dark side, it's pretty much the dark side of American history, was just that the South was involved with the lynchings of African Americans. And it's a real controversial topic, but this character, based on a real journalist, I believe I named by the name of Walter White, who did the same thing. He would expose racial injustice, use his appearance to blend in and to infiltrate. And he even talked about like how, he tried, like he even talked about how it was kind of like a battle for him to like remind himself that, I mean, I wouldn't say it was a battle though, but he knew he was a black dude. He didn't like to, he didn't like the fact that he would like, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is just that he didn't want to like lose his own meaning. Like he wanted,
Yeah, he
to
didn't
know
want to
that
lose
he
his
was black.
identity.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that he would tell people too that, he was like, look, I love myself, who I am. I know who I am, and I accept it. I love it, and I just thought it was really interesting how you brought up the whole idea of just like work, the self-image, because that's something some people struggle with. They struggle with trying to look cool, trying to look fly. But
Yeah.
then there are some people out there that, deep down they're a different person. And I think a part of it is just the fact that they don't like that part of themselves. So they act a certain way in order to fit in order to like mask. But then that takes energy,
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
and that's where
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I feel like that's where like, people kind of lose themselves, like, when the energy get this, the energy, and all that it takes to do all that, it is lose themselves. And they're just not, they're a whole different person, but not to their liking. And like, I think when people start to kind of see through the facade, it's almost like they become even not hated though, but I mean, I guess hated in a sense. So, but like, it's just people know right away, like, okay, that's fake.
Mhm. Yeah, I was gonna say, I was just watching a podcast earlier. It was about Alan Rickman, and
Yeah,
he
Professor Snape.
played, yeah, yeah. So he played Aquaman. He recently played Hawk in Titans, and he was talking about like just like what life in Hollywood was like. So,
Oh wait a minute, are you talking about
um,
Alec Rickman from,
oh no,
was he
Alan Richardson. Sorry.
Alan Richardson? Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, he's the guy who played just Hawk recently. I think he's leading the Jack Reacher show on Amazon right now. And
Uh-huh. I've
yeah,
seen the trailer for that.
yeah, he was basically on the podcast, and he was saying like, he was an actor, writer, producer, father, friend, and he was just trying his best to like keep up with all those identities, and he just that's that's all he ever did, right? And it just caused him like a huge like depression, and so it's a real thing, it's something to be kind of mindful of. So yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, with the character of Adrian, so he goes through sort of a change too. I mean, he eventually slowly starts to help out the tweaks in some way. I mean, though he's still a little selfish, I mean, you can tell that he's going through sort of a change. And, his brother's a tweak too. Did I get that correct also?
Yeah. So his brother's a tweak. So basically in the story, there's a rebel gang of tweaks led by Lionheart, and they want to overthrow the city and just impose their own sense of order because they don't agree with the laws. So yeah, like Adrian just wants to take him down, so like he'll be recognized as like the big man, like the guy who took down this big bad monster and just made everything,
Self-image.
made everything better. But then he realizes, like, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but then this is in issue 3 and issue 4. Like, he realizes that Lionheart kind of has like a point to what he's doing. Like, he realizes that, like, the government and these corrupt businessmen, like, they're not just exploiting these people, but they're just doing absolutely like terrible and irredeemable things. And it comes to like Adrian's attention, and that's what really like I guess makes him change his mindset, I guess. So like so it makes him question what he like how he wants to serve everybody, and yeah, like I think there's a couple interesting layers to like Adrian, in the sense that I said this before, like he's not a good person. When we start up the story, like he lies, he cheats, he steals.
And not the Eddie Guerrero way. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, but when we like I guess when we learn more about him, like you get where he's coming from. So I guess childhood trauma is like another theme of story. He had like really toxic parents, and so that's one of the reasons why he just can't be open with anybody. Like he feels very guarded around people all the time, because he's I guess he just doesn't want things to be used against him all the time. And so there's that. And yeah, he genuinely just thinks, like a lot of us, that like, oh, if we had success and money, and if everybody was giving us all this attention, we'd be happy. But he learns that lesson in the story, that all that stuff, it doesn't make you happy at all. It just makes you oftentimes like worse off.
So I guess in a sense, with the whole accident that happened in Echo City, I mean, even though Adrian didn't become a tweak, like all the people in Echo City who changed physically, in a sense, Adrian starts to change himself. I mean, even though he doesn't have like tweak like abilities, in a sense, it kind of changes perspective, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. Like um I mean, I think his transformation really comes like at the end of the arc. Like I don't want to spoil too much about the story, but there's a lot of things I plan on doing with like Adrian. So like for example, in this arc, it's all about like image, right? He kind of learns that like, oh, this image of perfection is not ideal. It'll just make me miserable. So that's one of his first lessons that he learns. Um, you know, the next lesson in the next arc is more about like validation. About
Mhm.
we I mean, especially when we're kids, like we seek a lot of validation from like other people, and so like he's somebody who has like a lot of I guess self-worth issues, and so um, yeah, he doesn't do well when he's alone, I guess, but he learns to like slowly just like love himself, and yeah, so there's a lot of like I really hope, fingers crossed, that we make it up, that we get to do these 4 or 5 arcs that I have planned for this character. But
I mean, they sound like amazing arcs. I mean, the fact that validation, self-love. I mean, again, it kind of goes back to Icon Negro. Sorry for like the word salad, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I was trying to gather my thoughts still, but I guess what I was going to say about Icon Negro too was just the fact that with him, he knows that he loves himself. But I think, with him too, he has, he kind of feels bad for having to blend in as a, black man looking like a white dude. And I guess that kind of makes him feel a little bad. But at the same time, the fact that he's using it to expose racial injustice is a redeeming quality. It's a way for him to like make things right and to help out his people. And I feel like I see that with Adrian too, sort of on the reverse. Even though he's not a tweak, right? He's fighting for, he's doing something right using his MMA abilities. And also helping out his brother too, even though he and his brother don't see eye to eye. It's about family too, I guess, with Echoes of the Triumphant too. We do see Adrian's sister, who's sort of like a reluctant matriarch of the family who has to keep everything together. And she just has to pick up the pieces every time Adrian, or his brother, like, mess up. She has to patch everything back up together. Would you say that's the case too with her, or?
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say like family is a really big theme in the story.
Yeah.
Like yeah, her sister like is somebody who is kind of that like supportive person in Adrian's life who constantly tries to like push him to be a better person. But of course, when we started the story, like Adrian just keeps on screwing things up and he doesn't listen to her. But yeah, like I guess it's interesting what you said earlier about that story. Like um, to me, like one of the other themes that's really important to Echoes of the Triumphant is family. So um, it kind of one of the questions that I ask later on in the story is that like how far would you go like for your family, and what does that say about you as a person? So um, I don't want to give too much away about Echoes of the Triumphant, but like later on in the story, like a family member is in danger, and he goes on to do a lot of questionable things, and um, I guess that's one of the really interesting things about like storytelling, because like just in life in general, like I feel like a lot of people are often caught in some gray areas, like and so but at the end of the day, like people just want to look out for their fellow friends and fellow families, and um, yeah, that's just what makes people very interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And so I don't know if I have much to say more to say about Echoes of the Triumphant. I did Well, let's see. Did talk about the arcs. How about the big bad Lionheart? What's his story?
Yeah, true. So like I guess on the surface, like he kind of looks like a Magneto-esque character. Like
I was thinking
um
that too, actually,
yeah,
about like leading the Brotherhood of Mutants and all that.
it's like I try to do something interesting with this character. So on the surface, he looks like that type of character. It looks like he's an extremist who wants to give as much pain and punishment to like normal people as possible and as much privilege to tweaks as possible. But like in the story, I kind of allude to the fact that like um, he's driven by his pride too. So like um, in a way, he's not too dissimilar from Adrian, because like pride's a very like driving force uh, in his character. Like it's a very big character flaw in like both Lionheart and Adrian. So I tried to set up that like dark parallel between the two of them. So uh, Lionheart really he just wants to like impose his own sense of order just so he can have like the greatest social status in the city. So that's really what drives him.
So it's
So yeah,
almost like a
I try
mirror
to
of the
make
two characters, wouldn't you say?
yeah. So yeah, they're I'd say like in a way like Lionheart's like a dark reflection of Adrian. So like Adrian does a lot of questionable things, just so like just out of his own ego. But then Lionheart does like very very bad things just to like out of just just for his ego as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna also say too that the two characters seem to be like foils of each other. It's
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
like yin and yang almost, and sort of like Neo and Smith, and how they're the same person. And one's obviously the savior, supposed to be the savior of humanity, whereas the other one is just this virus or something, or
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I to be honest, they're kind of like the dynamic between them is kind of inspired by like Daredevil and the Kingpin. So like
Yeah.
Kingpin kind of uses his like strength and just like big physicality to just fight people, and like Adrian and Daredevil, they just rely more on their like fighting skills. Like they're a lot smaller, and I mean, they're like Daredevil and Adrian, they're like regular sized people, but they're not like as strong as built and like, as Kingpin and Lionheart. So yeah,
And the fact that with Daredevil too, he uses his adversity to drive him. The fact that he's blind
yeah,
and how that symbolizes justice, being blind.
yeah, exactly. Like um, I mean, like I think there's a couple of like if you read, I don't know how to describe it to you, but if you read the story, like you can kind of tell that like Daredevil kind of influences Echoes of the Triumphant too. Like it's very, I try to make it like dark and gritty and grounded as possible, because you know like I just feel as if like your characters aren't that grounded. Like it's just kind of hard to connect with them. So
Oh yeah, to have a character that's grounded is always a good thing. I mean, you want a character that is grounded and has flaws. It's not Mary Sue. That way many people can relate to that character. And oh yeah, definitely. And if there's any character that I can, there's actually a lot of characters that I can name on top of my head who I feel are very grounded. And now the character that comes to my mind is from Final Fantasy X by the name of Tidus. I don't know if you played the game, but he's one of
I
my favorite
never
characters
played it.
actually. Hmm?
I never played it. No.
Yeah, so it's a really cool game. In Final Fantasy X, he's just seen as, he's sort of like Adrian, the fact that he's all about the razzle dazzle, being the star. Because in the story, he's a blitzball player. And for those of you constant listeners who don't know, blitzball is like the sport in Final Fantasy X. It's sort of like aqua soccer. It's like soccer in water, basically. Like they're swimming and like throwing the ball at each other, or like water polo, but in a more, it's like more deep. It's like you're not like swimming on top of it, you're like swimming in the water. And it's like in this globe of like water, this blue globe of water, and you're like swimming trying to score a goal.
Hmm.
And this character is just, he's a star player, and he's following in his father's footsteps of becoming the blitzball player. But then again, he also has daddy issues too. And as he's sucked into a different reality that's different from his own, he slowly starts to shed off like the whole being the star player, and starts to find a real purpose, his real purpose, which is to be a guardian to this summoner, this beautiful summoner that he has a crush on by the name of Yuna. And he finds out that he quickly discovers that his dad was a gardener to Yuna's father. And the story is just, great storytelling in that. And he's such a grounded character because we can all relate to Titus, of always wanting to be on top, always want to be number one, always wanting everything. And you come to realize that there's more to life than just being number one. There's more to life than just being like the top dog, if you will.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just, what's more worth it to life is just being there for those that you love. And he learns that with his bond with Yuna, who later on becomes his girlfriend of sorts. And he also learns that with the bond with his companions, Waka, Lulu, Riku, all these people who have different abilities, but yet they all share the common goal of being guardians to Yuna. So he's just a great example of just being that grounded character that we can all relate to and all learn from. And I think too, like that's one of the, like with Echoes of the Triumphant, I feel like that's one of the, cool things about the story, is just that we can learn from this character of like what's important and what's not so important. And with Adrian wanting to be this top MMA fighter, and don't get me wrong, he's a great fighter, he's talented, but I think he's going to learn that, from what it looks like, he's going to learn that there's more to life than just making money, being I mean, he's starting to realize that with his job even. But there's more to life than just making money, being the top dog. And there's actually it's more worth it to be there for your friends and for those that you love and your family than just being on the top.
That's exactly it. Yeah, I think you definitely nailed the story. Yeah, I really hope that like people just check it out, because I just feel as if like a lot of people today are just, I don't know, just too self-involved in their phones, and just like a lot of like things that just aren't that important, I guess. Like some people are just a bit too career driven, and that just like inevitably leads to like some misery. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, with the fact that, like I said, it's a mirror to our own society, and that's one of the things in our society that we all struggle with, I think, is we all want to have that golden career where we make buttloads of money, but then, again, we lose ourselves in the process, just like trying to fit in, we kind of lose ourselves, and it's just, that takes up a lot of energy. And yeah, we see it happen. And I mean, we see it on the news as well. I think also that's the fact that people who could have done great things, and yet they decide to, like, for whatever reason, just like get caught up in the whole hoopla, if at all, if you will. And then it's like, and we see it a lot with celebrities too. And then like, they're just, nothing against celebrities. Celebrities are cool. But I think, for those who really get caught up in the allure of it all, like they're just miserable, man.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of times, that's why a lot of them, have to go to therapy. And for me, like mental health is one of the, this is one of the things I take very seriously. And I think a lot of people do need therapy, and I think people should go to therapy. I go to therapy all the time. Just for you constant listeners out there, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I do go to therapy because guess what? Yours truly battles stuff, and we all battle stuff. And I think, we need to remind ourselves every day that, again, this is more to life than, trying to get that, trying to be at the top, or trying to get that, golden career. And it's like, I mean, some people do get to that point only to realize that's not worth it. I guess it's also what I'm trying to say too. And I feel that we even see that with, we could see that with Lionheart also, where he's sort of like, what, probably, arguably speaking, now you mentioned it, like, I think that had Adrian been tweaked, he probably would have been like Lionheart without question.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Um, like kind of back to the point that you were saying earlier, like um, yeah, I was just gonna say like Echoes of the Triumphant. It's really about like the triumph of the human spirit. So like each and every character, I tried to make it so that they're just every single character is kind of miserable in some way or another.
Yeah.
And like as you read the story, you just get to see him triumph. And that's like that's a really beautiful thing. Like I just think it's beautiful, like when people struggle with whatever, whether it be like financial distress, or um, like family distress, or like or, or this and that, and they just triumph. Like um, that's uh, that's uh, that's one of the reasons why like Daredevil has such an influence on Echoes of the Triumphant, because that character to me, like um, you just see so much like perseverance. So like for example, like his mother abandoned him when he was a baby because she was suffering from postpartum depression, and
Oh,
then
wow.
his dad died at the hands of a mobster when he was a kid, and then he lost the first love of his life, Elektra, to Bullseye, and then he lost the second love of his life, Karen Page, to Bullseye as well. So um, yeah, that's I tried to inject that same sort of energy into my story. So like when you read Echoes of the Triumphant, like he's just uh, he just has a really big chip on his shoulder. Like he has to persevere through a lot of personal and external obstacles, and it's in my opinion, it's like a really beautiful thing when you just get to see him like overcome all those things.
Yeah, that really creates a beautiful story. And I mean, I think struggle is just one of those things where it's not pretty though, but it makes the story kind of beautiful in a sense. And for there to be no struggle, I mean, like, or not be facing any dragons or monsters along the way, or any adversity, I mean, it would just be a boring story.
Exactly.
And I think I think too, like even heroes who are supposedly like who are like unstoppable or seemingly impenetrable, struggle with that too in their own ways. I mean, even like my favorite hero of all time, Superman, for instance, he's had a lot of shit thrown at him. And even in like the recent stories too, where his son growing up to be an older kid, hanging out with his, supposedly, his dad, who is like presumed deceased, Jor-El, just takes his own son, and he gets aged pretty quickly. And that must have been a real punch to the face for Superman, and to realize that, wow, and I mean, for a short time he was missing his son, then only to find out that his son returned, but he was older. And because about a couple, I think it was like about a span of a few weeks, like he was just a kid, he was a 10-year-old boy trying to figure himself out, and a 10-year-old boy who inherited his superpowers. But then a couple of weeks later he comes back, this 17-year-old kid, or the 17-year-old, almost a man practically. And he was just like, dude. And like, I feel like that, Brian Michael Bendis, I think, wrote that arc too. And a lot of fans were not happy about it though, but I think, it just put in a new depth, kind of like it put some depth into Superman stories. And it kind of, made, I guess it kind of affected, it did affect Clark in a way. It actually did affect Clark and Lois. And like I said, it must have been a real cosmic smack to the face. And can you imagine like your own kid, you see them as like a little, if you see them as a little baby, but then say like weeks later they're already grown up, and it's like, wow, that was fast, what I mean? And it just hits you, and it's just like, wow, like
I
that.
can sort of. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I can sort of see like the I guess controversy to it all, because like in my opinion, like just a really grounded stuff that makes him seem like a really like human person is kind of what like helps people like connect with Superman. So like recently in the show, like I remember in the pilot, like his mom just died,
Yeah,
in the very first episode, and that's a really real thing that everybody will probably have to go through, like the passing of like a family member or friend, and it's a gut punch. And
it
that's just
is.
what makes you like connect with him so much, because like um because despite the fact that he's almost like a god, like you can relate to how he's feeling. Like everybody can put themselves in his shoes. So yeah, like I think that what you were saying earlier about like his son just aging up like almost like to like a man, like I think that's a huge gut punch to Superman. But it's like, I don't know, it's like it doesn't really sound that relatable.
Well, I mean, like the fact that, I mean, relatable in the sense that, any parent would probably like, I feel like any parent would like be shocked at the fact that their child is aged quickly. It's like crap,
Yeah.
and like, and also for the fact that, Clark Kent strives to be normal. He wants to have a normal life. He wants to have a family, but then for his dad to like kind of like Jor-El, right? To like kind of interfere with that. That must have like made him feel some kind of way. It's like, dude, can you just like let me like live life like normal? And that's one of the things I love about Superman is just the fact that he wants to be normal. He strives to be as human as possible, even though he's an alien god, or he's an alien from another planet and practically has powers of a god. And it reminds me of a quote that Batman even said about him. And Batman one time even quoted saying that it's a remarkable dichotomy in many ways. Clark is the most human of us all. Then he shoots fire from the skies, and it's difficult to not think of him as a god. And how fortunate we are all to that he does not that's not even occur to him.
Yeah, the thought never occurs to him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was a really powerful quote from Batman, because I feel that, yeah, Superman is human. I mean, besides Injustice, Superman or Ultraman, Superman would not hurt a fly. He would not, he wouldn't do any of that. And even though he knows that he could, I mean, if he wanted to, he could probably rule the universe, but that's just not who he is. And it's just, yeah, and that's one of the things I do like about him. And just the fact he's an introvert and he's himself, and he's okay with being himself. He's comfortable with who he is. I mean, he grows to become comfortable with who he is. And going back to Adrian, I think he's going through sort of the same thing where he's gonna become comfortable with who he is. And I think underneath all that, MMA, machismo, whatever, like, he's actually a good guy. He's a good person. And he's just like, I think, honestly, he's a good person not doing good things, not to quote Ryan Leaf, but
Yeah, I think, yeah, that's a pretty interesting way of like putting it. Like, um, yeah, like there's definitely like a lot of humanity to Adrian. I don't think he's has the same struggles as Superman, because like, I mean, um, Superman's all like kind of in bizarre territory, and he just wants to be normal more than anything else. And
I mean, with Adrian's
he
case,
just,
he's a human being. He
yeah,
has that
yeah,
going for
exactly.
him.
But like, it's almost like the reverse path in a way, because like Clark, really loves his family, really loves his friends. But when we started the story, like Adrian just kind of pushes away his family and friends in a pursuit to like in pursuit of like a fake lifestyle that doesn't make him happy. So later on in the story, like he gets pulled more towards his family and recognizes just like he recognizes how important that stuff is. So yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, absolutely. So looks like so it looks like we touched a lot on episode of Triumphant and other things as well. Um not to spoil anything though, but is there going to be like any other additional characters that you have in mind? Like, is there like going to be like another big bad besides Lionheart? Is there?
Yeah, for sure. So basically we're right now we're working on issue number 3. So the first arc is going to finish with issue number 4. And so this is basically the arc where Adrian just has to take down the big bad Lionheart. And so after this arc is finished, I already have another script ready, and he's going to take down another big bad. I don't want to say too much about him because, you know, I don't know. I'm always afraid of spoiling things, I guess. But like, Lionheart's more of like a street level, organized crime sort of villain. But the next villain that we have in store is like more of a white collar um, type of villain.
Like
So like,
subtle, basically, like, you don't really like, people are not aware of like what he does, but then it's
yeah,
like it's going to come out in a big way, sort of like, not, I mean, I don't want to say like Lex Luthor in a sense, because who would think of like a billionaire tycoon being like a bad guy, what I mean, or a businessman, right? But then it's like when he does it in a big way though, it's almost like shit.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like, have you ever heard of like Bernie Madoff?
Who?
So like the guy's name is Bernie Madoff, and
Oh,
it's
Bernie Madoff. Yes, I've heard of
yeah,
that. Was he the guy behind the Ponzi scheme or something
yeah, he had like the biggest Ponzi scheme in American
back in
history.
2008?
So
I think I remember that. Yeah, it
yeah, so
was
like
around the
it was
economy crash.
worth $60 billion. It's unbelievable.
Wow.
Yeah. So like, and that's the other thing too. Like despite the fact that like my book's like science fiction, like I don't know, there's parallels to like stuff that's happening in the real world. Like there's a lot of, corporate tycoons who are, not being that transparent, and who knows what they're up to. Like I hope they're up to like good things, but there's definitely some Bernie Madoffs there.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere, and they're among us.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the other thing I was gonna say too is that like there's have you ever seen this movie called Don't Look Up?
Don't Look Up. Sounds familiar. I don't think I've seen that movie.
It's a really funny movie. It's like it's on Netflix, and so basically it's about how like a comet's coming to Earth, right? And so the whole story is about how like the government's incompetent, um, like all these businesses are incompetent, like they can't, fight this like this comet that's coming down to the Earth to save everybody. But the really funny thing in the movie is that like there's this one character who tells everybody the truth, and she gets vilified. She gets vilified by the media, by the press, by like everybody. She basically loses her reputation and this and that, and basically the movie kind of alludes to the fact that like the more dishonest you are, the more successful you'll be. So like, I mean, I don't know, like it's kind of a controversial um, take on like society, but like I can kind of see that being true with like with Bernie Madoff and um, I guess all these other like con artists and politicians who
Oh,
pretty much you know
yeah,
don't
like
pay.
definitely. And like one that you may know of, like Keith Raniere
Oh,
from
who's that?
Nixium. He was like the guy who ran this cult called Nexium. It was proposed, it was like a front. It was like it was like a self-help organization, but it was a front for like, it was actually a cult, and it was like a front for like the other devious activities, like
Oh,
you
wow.
know sexual stuff that was involved. um yeah, and he was quite the con artist. And before that, he actually owned this business called Consumers Byline, and for a while it was taking off. It was doing really well though, but then he wasn't paying his employees, and the business just tanked. And he got with this hypnotherapist, who I forgot what she specialized in. It was something about shoot, like hypnotherapy or something. Like it's weird. So he got together with this hypnotherapist, and they made this organization, aimed at self-help, right? And what happened was just that I mean, obviously he got a lot of people involved. Everyone was intrigued with this guy. He claimed himself to be the world's smartest man and had an IQ of like 240 or something, but then it turned out to be false. And like they said he had multiple degrees, but then he barely graduated with a 2.26 GPA, and without passing his upper division courses. Even worse, like he was a head of this secret organization within the organization. And what it did was it branded women with his initials, like with a cauterizing pen, and it made news. It was like on the first page of the New York Times. And one actress in particular was the center of it all, Sarah Edmondson. She's from Canada, and she told the New York Times about it. And they pretty much started, the FBI went after him, and they arrested him in Mexico. They found him hiding in a closet in a Mexican suite, that he borrowed from a friend or something like that. And the guy's he's a total POS. And he was just, he would con people, and he would try to, he would like just do all sorts of things. And not, I mean, at the time, I guess, I mean, especially with the technology today, that's how they were able, I guess it's how they were able to expose him, because back then, I mean, you know, there were people that talked a lot about him though, but he wasn't really as known until recently.
Yeah.
I think it was like about a couple of years ago that they found out about him, and they found out more things about him, and you know, he even met the Dalai Lama too. So I mean, they actually, his story is, if you watch the HBO series The Vow, it talks a lot about that. And man, he was quite the con artist, and he's sort of up there with like the sort of like similar to the creator of Scientology though. But the thing about Scientology is just that Scientology has connections in Hollywood, and that's how they're able to like operate. They have connections through the actors and through other sorts of organizations too. And it's a lot of interesting stuff, I mean, like crazy stuff actually, I would say.
I heard this like really amazing quote. It was from Aziz and Sorry on his new comedy special, and he said something along the lines of, "You can profit off of information, but
Yeah,
you can also profit off of misinformation." And
yeah, it's true.
that's a scary thing.
It's a real scary thing. And like, it comes to show that people can put up a front and be anybody. It's like a chameleon, if you will. And it's just, they use that to trick people. They use that to, I mean, for their own devious misdeeds. And it's just, you know yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. I shouldn't talk about COVID too much. That's probably like a pretty controversial thing. But like I've seen like a bunch of people just say ridiculous stuff about COVID, and I don't know. Like it's yeah, I don't know. Like it's I feel as though some more people would have gotten help had there not been so much misinformation.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
I mean, if people told the right information, yeah, they definitely would have gotten help, I mean, and especially people like, put aside their differences and, figure out a way to like, okay, we don't have to like each other though, but we do need to work together. Again, kind of like the story of Echoes of the Triumphant, like where, you know, yeah, you don't, we don't have to like one another, but we need to work together, in order to like make this world a better place, or, at least solve some problems. Because if we don't, I mean, that's gonna not end so well for people. And you look at what's happening with, like with Ottawa right now, like what you mentioned
yeah,
earlier. I think, that's sort of a symptom of that. It's just people not, people not just putting the, people aren't putting the differences aside. They're just wanting to fight. Everyone wants to get
yeah,
into a fight. They want to like, take it out on somebody. And it's like, come on, like there's no need for that. Like, I think there's always a need to have a conversation about what can we do better? How can we help one another? And leave it off at that.
yeah. And I think that's also like a testament to like how much like you need um like just I mean good leaders and people who can really like bring people together and just not be
Yeah,
divisive. And that's a really important thing because like I think like that's one of the things in Echoes of the Triumphant that I sort of allude to. Like there's always going to be like rivalry in any sort of society.
oh
There's
yeah,
always going to be
always.
like one person who thinks to himself, like, what am I doing so wrong, and what is that person doing so right? And there's always going to be just a little bit of that in everybody. And so, the best thing to do, in my opinion, is to get leaders out there who are just kind of bring a sense of community and just
Community, yes.
yeah, just start conversations between different people and yeah.
Absolutely. Well, so Echoes of the Triumphant is yeah, so the Kickstarter is up right now. I posted on my Twitter, and hopefully I can find a way to post that video on my YouTube page. Trying to download it if I can. Yeah, so it's on Kickstarter right now. You can go check it out. There's a lot of the rewards, and you got 30 days to go. So start backing people. Make sure that you help out, you fund this comic because it has a really amazing arc. And Pat, I hope it takes off. I hope you continue to create this story, this amazing story. And I hope we can talk about it again sometime soon. So yeah, thank you so much for being on the Earth 6 Comics Wire. Is there any final thoughts you want to say about Echoes of the Triumphant or anything in general?
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered everything. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on your podcast. You guys can reach me at Reverb Comics on Instagram. We have a Reverb Comics page on Facebook, and of course, there's reverbcomics.com that you guys should check out. So yeah, there's plenty of ways to reach me, and so yeah, thank you very much for having me on the show.
It's always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for being on, and thank you so much, constant listeners, for listening. As I always say, constant listeners, stay ever so awesome. This is Brian of Earth 16, and this is Pat Murphy.
Oh shit, sorry.
It's all good.
Okay, yeah, Pat Murphy.
All right, and we're signing out. Thank you so much. Y'all have a good one.